Grant Thornton International Business Report has been released, and the annual survey has revealed that 78% of UAE businesses are optimistic about the economy for this year. According to the report, this makes the United Arab Emirates the fourth most optimistic country, just after Chile, India and the Philippines. To discuss these results further with us, we are now joined by Hisham Farouk, International Practice Partner for Grant Thornton in the UAE. Hi. Good to have you on the show. Tell us, how do you conduct such a survey? How many businesses did you ask, and in how many countries?
Sure. Grant Thornton International covered this survey all across the world in 39 countries. We interviewed 11,000 privately held businesses. We had discussions with CEOs, with chairmen, all the top management. And they gave us their insights and their perceptions for 2011. And that was what the survey was based on.
What causes all this optimism here in the region, in the UAE?
Well, I think it's a number of things. Of course, the past 2 years have been quite difficult. There's been limited liquidity. We've seen a number of issues with large quasi-government entities. A lot of family businesses as well went through an internal restructuring process. And I think now they're beginning to see change. There's a change in the marketplace. Of course, a lot of investment coming in from the government sectors. And all this, I think, is adding to the optimism for 2011.
In which sectors and industries do we see the most optimism at the moment?
Well, the survey didn't really cover particular sectors, but I believe for the UAE, there's a number of sectors that will generally benefit from this process. Ultimately, if you look at the infrastructure investments, particularly coming out of Abu Dhabi, the construction sector will be the first to really feel this benefit directly. I believe the hospitality industry within Dubai in particular, we're already seeing developments. Hotels are performing better average room rates. Higher occupancies already. And ultimately that, of course, will affect the retail sector and trade and so on and so forth. So I think it'll be like an ongoing effect all across different sectors.
According to your survey, 55% of all UAE companies expect an increase in their employment. In which sectors do we see the most pickup in employment?
I think, again, you'll look at all across sectors. Maybe what I'll add to this as well will be the financial institutions. In 2008/2009, we know that there was a huge wave of letting go of many staff members and employees in the region. And the numbers, of course, spoke for themselves back at that time. And I think that was really just companies contracting back, looking into themselves, minimizing the cost as much as they can. Now, with this level of optimism or belief that there's going to be additional work, I think all companies are looking to increase their employee levels. And also this time around, I think they're looking for quality and experienced individuals to really take it forward. So I think it'll cross all of our sectors.
The most optimistic country in the world is Chile, followed by India and the Philippines. Why those three countries?
Well, it's interesting, but I think each one has its own reasons. Of course, Chile, Latin America, Brazil, Argentina, and Chile, they were all in the top 10 in the survey that we conducted. And I believe in general, Latin America, there is a positive optimism, and we're all seeing very positive growth GDPs percentages in those countries. India, of course, it and China, both 9% GDP last year. So, of course, we believe there's huge potential for India, the infrastructure investments taking place there. A lot of industries. We're also seeing a lot of large Indian companies now expanding outbound far more than ever before. And then finally, Philippines. Last year, new government came in. So I believe there's more political stability, lower interest rates, and as well, their business process outsourcing. So the outsourcing industry is booming fairly fast. So I think all these things play into it.
Is the UAE still seen as a very popular business hub for international and also regional companies?
Yes, we believe so. I think the great thing about the UAE and Dubai in specific is in the past 3 to 5 years, just the level of investment that took place in infrastructure. They built an unparalleled level of infrastructure here, and we see it through our road networks, the trains, and the buildings around us. And I think all this attracts international businesses. Now, of course, we've heard about Qatar and 2022 and the investments that will take place there, the potentials in Saudi Arabia as well. And a lot of Western companies or international companies would be looking to develop a regional hub. And I think Dubai offers all the requirements for that. So I think, yes, with that, it will continue to be an attractive place to develop.
How's the outlook for the regional companies looking at 2011, also compared to other countries, other businesses?
Well, I think local companies, like I said, they've restructured themselves internally. I think they've also benefited from just regional growth, the stability in the oil prices, or at least an increase in oil prices that have taken place, which ultimately means that there'll be additional liquidity in the market. The banking sector as well have been a bit more lax in the past couple of months. So I think the local businesses are looking much more optimistic. In the West, of course, there's a number of various elements to consider. I mean, in the United States, of course, we're discussing a third tranche of bailouts. You're looking at a bipartisan government, which also limits the process and the development in the country. In Europe, of course, with all the issues that are happening with the governments and so on and so forth. So I think within the GCC area, there is more optimism going forward.
Tell us, how were this year's results different to those of 2010 when it comes to optimism?
Well, I think all in all, if you look at the world in general, there's been more optimism all across the board. In some countries a little bit more than others, but more or less I think the whole world is looking at 2011 with a bit more optimism going forward.
Thank you, Hisham, for being on the show.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
And now it's time to take a look at the GCC markets, which ended mostly lower today. Coming up now, let's take a look at various currencies against the dirham, followed by the price of oil and precious metals. Well, that's it from the business desk. You can contact us at news@city7tv.com. Up next, Laura Buckwell is back with the news.